Hi, Liz. Perhaps I can check my microphone if it's working well. Can you hear me well? Yes? Okay.
Yes, working.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. This last minute technical checks. You're muted, Lisa. I don't know if are you saying anything?
I just laughed.
Okay.
All good.
Okay,
Uh,
now. I guess everyone knows that we are a little bit tired, but we're really happy to present our last keynote speaker, Xavi Benito, from Programa de Aguas Marinas y Continentales, Instituto de Investigación y Tecnología Agroalimentarias, IRTA, from Spain. So I guess many of you already know Xavi because he's always, like pro open paleoecological databases, and this is the topic that he's going today to present. So the title of his keynote is "The Whole is More Than the Sum of Its Parts: Opportunities and Challenges in Open Paleoecological Databases." I know that Xavi works a lot with diatoms, but I guess with some, doesn't matter like which kind of group it is. It's about tons of data and what we can do with that, and that it should be open for everyone that is interested. So thank you, Xavi. It's a pleasure for me to present you and for all our organizing committee. And it was a pleasure also having you as a member of the organizing committee.
Thank you, Liz. Let me start sharing my screen. Okay. Now view here. Does it work?
We can still see the PowerPoint, the complete view. Maybe it takes a little bit of time to see
Wait.
the...
My is paused. It says your screen sharing is paused for some reason. Okay. Stop sharing. Okay, let me try again. Okay, I'm gonna do the whole thing. View. Now, Paula say yes. Okay. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Good. Thank you. Excellent. Well, thanks so much, Liz, for the introduction, and of course, thank you for the opportunity that I've been given to present this broad topic that I'm hoping it's going to be of broad interest to all of you. I must say that I've been part of the organizing committee, but all the credit go to Liz, Paula, Edward, Fer. So I think the work that you've been doing is amazing, and I think everybody should know it. So today, I would like to talk about opportunities and challenges in using open paleoecological databases and what we mean by open and fair and ethical open sharing practices is something that it will appear over my talk. This is not by any means, as Jonathan said in his keynote one man show. It's of course the product and the collaborations of many people, especially since last year, since we started this European-funded project, Paleo Cost Action. I'll be specifically talking about this in a minute. But this is when we really started to think about building an European network of communities and people and data sets to put together paleoecological data sets. So this is a brief outline that what I'm going to present. So first, an overview of mostly the challenges. So I'll be combining challenges and opportunities, but mostly the challenges or justification why we need this European network of paleoecological databases, to then introduce the paleo open cost action and how people can be involved, especially here. I think it's a really important a networking funding opportunity for most of us. Point 3 is more a specific set of activities that we have just started within the diatom group. in the working group of aquatic proxies. Neotoma is something that I also would like to talk a little bit more as a paleoecological database. I'm sure most of you or those who work in the biotic component of ecosystems know about this resource. And finally, yeah, I would like to conclude with some personal reflections that I think it's very timely for this meeting, this ECR meeting, about in what I like to call intangible benefits of networking. So anything that goes beyond the classical getting a paper published or getting a proposal funded when we are involved in these networking activities. Okay, so a little bit of myself. I haven't not prepared this slide, but after seeing the previous colleagues presenting their keynotes, I think it's nice to introduce who I am and most importantly what I'm doing. So I think I feel comfortable if people call me aquatic paleoecology. So paleo between brackets, because paleo is something that scared many ecologists, and at the same time, if you don't put paleo, it's when you, of course, scare paleoecology. So I'm applying ecological theory in time series, no matter the time range. I always try to learn and understand everything that I like, but I don't know how to do it. And this is why, since I graduated 9 years ago, I was trying to, being on the frontier of the different disciplines within ecology. So ecology is everything that is left after you study zoology, botany, limnology. So I think it summarizes pretty well this multidisciplinary nature of ecology and also my career path. Since January, I've also got the same exact kind of position than Marta, a tenure track position funded by the Spanish government at IRTA. So no big news, setting the basis that we are kind of facing an era in which many ecosystems, if not all, have been severely impacted by climate change, direct human pollution, and anthropogenic impacts. And one of the most consequences of that is our losses of biodiversity, and with that, consequences in all the livelihoods and resources that we as humans use from the ecosystems. Following these losses of biodiversity, many national and international agencies, especially in Europe, have called an urgent action to restore nature, to restore ecosystems, right? So in order to cope with this bad, let's say, implications of losses of biodiversity. This is, of course, not an easy task and not trivial and not something that we can do from one day to day two. The first reason is because we are, as you can see in this plot, it's very famous now. We're facing this rapid change in many different environmental drivers that probably have pushed the ecosystems into a novel condition, something that have not seen in the last 10,000 years. It relates very well with Joanna was saying before, and it's very well exemplified again in this hockey stick famous plot of Will and Stephen about the beginning of the Anthropocene, if you will, or the rapid acceleration or the great acceleration in many different Earth system variables, but also socioeconomic trends. So novel conditions that are not easy to cope when we think about environmental issues or environmental management actions. The second complex, or the second complexity, is, okay, so we need to restore ecosystems. So when we, or to what extent we have to go back in time to set kind of a baseline reference conditions, pre-disturbance conditions. So this is, again, not an easy task, and I don't have to convince anybody here in the room. Analyzing the past is very complex, but it's the only, to me, I am a firm believer that it's the only resource and the only type of data that we actually can work with. To answer many questions, but mostly probably the most important one thing about this restoring nature using past data or past information is when, how, and by how much humans, began to be the primary driver of the ecosystem change and ecosystem trajectories. People have been using many different biotic proxies. This is a cartoon that I've took from the COAST proposal, looking at this complex time series relationship between climate, biotic responses, in very few cases we have a synchronous response of forest expansion following climate change, what happened in the lake, what happened in the catchment, etc. So as we accumulate data and as we accumulate knowledge, we will be in a better position to understand regional and global effects of current global changes. But with that, we come a lot of challenges, right? So in this era of sharing data sets, we need to kind of do it better that we do in a different way. This comes the first challenge of this using open paleoecological data sets I'm going to present. So this is again a kind of an estimate of the wide range of heterogeneity and availability of data types that we might found in different types of repositories, if they are open or not open, or they are harmonized in terms of the taxonomy. And the data type, as you can see here in the list, in the rows, are mostly coming from biota, pollen, charcoal, macrofossil, testate amoeba, chironomids, diatoms, etc. So depending on which proxy you are interested in, you can more or less estimate the amount of data that is actually open or available open in repositories. I'm going to use repositories and database indistinctively. They're not the same, but for the sake of clarity, yeah, just bear in mind with that. Pollen, for instance, are by far the most, let's say, openly available and harmonized, probably data type because of the longer period of time that people have been using pollen to reconstruct climate. But when we go to more, let's say, minor representative type of proxies such as chironomids, diatoms, ostracods, something that we have already started thinking about how we can mobilize communities and data sets. It's when the real problem arises because they are not open, they are not harmonized, they are probably some are in static repositories, but they are not findable, etc., etc. The second challenge is not a real challenge. It's something that we have to value as a community because we have very different and diverse type of repositories and databases that people can use as a final, let's say, platform where to store your data, depending on if you are a firm believer of data sharing or the funder, gives you pressure to publish your data or whatever are the reason. That's something that we are changing our mentality as we move forward in future generations. But again, the challenge come when we have this umbrella or a universe of different repositories that we might be falling into duplicates, lack or difficulties in finding what exactly we are looking for. The third challenge is something that kind of speaks to me very closely, and probably most of you, is the biases in proxy and also the geography. So for instance, this is a screenshot of the Neotoma viewer, the Neotoma paleoecological database, the website. And if you type in diatom sediment surface samples, you see the geographical locations where they are. And obviously, because of natural reasons, most of the observations are located in North America because it's when most of the synthesis efforts started there. And this database, Neotoma, has an origin in North America, which is totally normal. And I think they have been instrumental in and very importantly sharing the lessons learned in this topic. If we type in diatom core, which are actual paleolimnological observations, again, a very similar pattern arises. Now this is probably outdated. I know there are more fossil records of diatoms in Europe, but still, if we look at Neotoma, which we from this European project are proposing to be the platform and the resource where most of the data uploads and the data mobilization activities will be providing. There is still a lot of work to do. It doesn't mean that there is no data out there. This is a paper published by Jaime Escobar and collaborators in Journal of Paleoecology. They did an amazing literature research in this journal, looking for geographical coordinates of the studies that have been published in the paper, in the journal. And they found first a lack of representation of studies in the tropics, even although we know that there are lakes, there are lacustrine basins to be explored and to be cored. And what I would like to highlight here is more than 90% of these articles are focused in the Northern Hemisphere, which is good for our, let's say, purposes, because we are interested in Europe in this project. But we don't know how many of these papers have data, or the authors have made data available either through supplementary material or static repositories or so on. The numbers are even worse for tropical regions, but this is another topic that we need to we can talk about this later. The challenge number 4 is that not everything, of course, that is not in Neotoma is not available. Of course, there are many data sets and collections that have been many people working on and putting together, especially in the 90s, have been compiled, but they are not findable. They are not accessible unless you know the researcher or the group that have been doing this work. This is a very nice example of this European diatom database, which is a massive compilation of modern diatom observations from sediment surface lakes in Europe to build calibration data sets. At that time, the transfer functions methods were a hot topic, not probably these days, but it's still. So the problem here is that the community have fallen inactive. Steve Jaggins, in this case, he's now retired. So we are facing a risk of this amazing sets of data, amazing set of information being lost if we are not able to kind of learn from their activities and their projects to mobilize the data and the people that have been working on. And the final challenge is specifically for ECRs. This is a paper that we published in Pages magazine, which is an amazing resource for especially ECRs and the community working in past environmental changes. We asked specifically ECRs about their visions and how they perceive open data sharing practices in their careers or in their work. We asked several questions, but the home take message that we like to give you is that they perceive the open data practices something that is not a priority task for them, which is normal. It's totally understandable, because here it comes many challenges about who owns the data if you are within a larger group in which the funds come from another group, etc., etc. So there's many barriers that we need to consider as well. But something I would like to point out here is that they feel that they don't feel themselves enough trained to share the data in a way that other people can use it, or people can reuse it, can interpret, and at some point work with them to initiate collaboration. So we also see data sharing as a vehicle as well to initiate conversations and initiate research. It's not only sharing data. This is my data. Do whatever we want. You want, because we can stop people doing stupid science. This is not. This is something that we cannot control. What we can control is how we developed better protocols and data sharing practices that goes beyond the classical technical aspect of this is my Excel, and that's it. So with this in mind, with all of these challenges, last year a group of researchers met in Göttingen for a workshop funded by INQUA, and Thomas Giesecke from the University of Utrecht took the lead in putting together this proposal, Pele Open, which was submitted to COST. COST is an European, I think it's the European Cooperation in Science and Technology. This is the acronym of COST, more or less. And it's a very nice, highly competitive, but it's a very nice funding agency that provides quite a nice amount of money to network. It doesn't fund you any, project to generate new data to go to the field and extract cores. No. It's just initiating collaborations, mobilizing the community for tackling a big question. Our question was generating a new interdisciplinary agenda for paleoecological science. This is very broad, I know, but what this cost action is funding is through a different meetings, workshops, gatherings, either virtual or in person, to especially to build trust at the very beginning with researchers, because it's very hard to believe or trust in others that you have never collaborated before and they are just asking for your data. This is something that we want to change in our mentality. So these are the three main, let's say, overarching goals of paleopen, a multidisciplinary paleoecological research agenda, unlock and integrate the existing European quaternary paleoecological and paleoenvironmental reconstruction. So not only secondary data, we also want to go to raw data, how people have been collecting the data from the field, and how have been the steps in documenting that. And most importantly, I think that's when I'm gonna explain you in a minute. One of the working groups is specifically devoted to the third objective, which is engaging with practitioners and transferring this knowledge to the stakeholders, to the people that can be interested or can have used of this past knowledge to restore nature and restore ecosystems. This is again, these are the two main web links that you can follow to see. So the first one is more the workable website where all the events and activities are placed. The second one is the official cost website. But at the end, sorry, I forgot to say. So we just, I think since 2 weeks ago, we have the logo, which is very nice. I think I wanted to say that I'm very proud of it. So the idea is putting together science, data, and community to advance how we do better in terms of sharing data sets and knowledge and documenting workflows. Paleopen is organized in 4 different working groups. Working group 1 and 2 are the data set, let's say, communities. One is terrestrial, the other one are aquatic proxies. At the beginning, we thought in bridging the 2 into 1, but we all love our, let's say, silos of knowledge and silos of colleagues. So we think, okay, let's start separately and then come together at some point to understand linkages between aquatic and terrestrial ecosystems as well. Working group 3 are data storage and management. Although we propose Neotoma as the central database repository to upload most of the new data sets that will be provided by the community, by the members, or through systematic literature reviews. We also want to improve the way how the different databases speak to each other. So we don't want to force anybody to go to Neotoma and disassemble previous efforts in data synthesis. Okay, so this is a specific working group that will work on that. And the working group number 4 are the outreach and communication. And this is what I've been saying before. I think it's crucial and very important to transfer the knowledge, especially in these days in which, unfortunately, we live in an era of fake news. People don't trust science, even they don't trust data. They don't really mind if you are telling them global warming are increasing 1.5, 2. They don't. But still, we need to invest on the communication and outreach to stakeholders. So this is so the way how we are organized, and I'm telling you for a reason. It's we are a core group that we more or less run the daily business of the network. So Thomas Gisik is the lead, Sandro Nege is the co-lead. This is myself, Robert, Elizabeth, Celia, Stefan, Walters, Graciela, Peter, Andre, Sandra and Kirsten. Probably some of you know them, and I hope some of them are already here. Then we have a management committee. This is very kind of formal because COST is an European funding agency, and people have to work in an European institution. And what does it mean is that each European country can have 2 representatives in the membership, in the management committee that holds a meeting every 2 months with the core group to kind of brief what we have been doing so far. We also have a membership, and it is when here you enter, because it's very easy to apply. Okay, sorry. It's very easy to apply to this cost action. You just have to go to the to the website and provide a scientific background, a motivation and contribution, and as long as you are interested in the objectives of the network of PaleoOpen, and if you work with some sort of proxy that can be fossilized in the sediment, or even you share your data and you are able to share your data, it's very flexible, right? So this is a kind of a compulsory, let's say, step if you want to be involved in the working group activities, meetings, training activities. So if you want to be paid and if you want to be reimbursed to all the travels and all the participation in different groups, you have to be a member, which it takes 5-10 minutes to fill in this information. Okay, so with this in mind, now what I would like to do is spend a little bit of time and minutes explaining what some of the what we have been doing, other than explaining what we would like to do, more concrete. Although it's not very concrete, it's very work in progress. But it's what we call the diatom stewardship, a protocol. So we just last month, 3 weeks ago, no, 1 month ago already, we organized this first workshop of the working group 2, the aquatic proxies, in Skopje in Macedonia. Dusi Chance and Slatko were our, let's say, local organizers, and without them we could not actually organize anything. So it's been fantastic to collaborate with them, and we brought together 21 participants from different countries. This is a nice picture of us, and we started specifically with diatoms and the chironomid community, because we kind of thought that these are the most representative communities in the membership. But we don't forget about ostracods, of course, foraminifera, the state amoeba. So this is something that it's not closed. Of course, it's very open, and if you are and if you want to participate and you are willing to contribute with your ideas, and after that with data, you are more than welcome. So we started discussing these fair and open sharing practices in the diatom and the chironomid communities. So this is some of the, let's say, agenda or points that we tackle specifically. So there are many different issues when we think about putting together synthesis data or synthetic data sets of diatoms. Probably the most important one was the taxonomic harmonization. I'm gonna stop here in a minute later, because everyone that works with taxonomy knows that the nomenclature and the rapid rate of change in names are very considerable. So we need to account for that to some extent, especially when we use old counts. So another issue that we think we need to tackle is the transparency and the documentation of why and when people change names. So why people aggregate, I don't know. For instance, in Joanna's presentation, I saw these very nice stratigraphic plots, and there were many complex, gonphonema complex. So these is an aggregation of taxa that, for any reason, either because you cannot identify to a species level or for aesthetic reasons, you group together. But what happened with those decisions? Because if we then want to use Joanna's counts to compare with other sites, we need to understand if we can compare apples and apples or not. And there is also general protocol. There is a lack of a general protocol about what to do and how people do these taxonomic, let's say, decisions. And I hope this is a example for diatoms, but I think it speaks to many different biotic proxies as well. So this is something that I came up with the nodes that we work in the workshop in Skopje. So we are now starting mobilizing different data sets in Europe, especially the European Diatom database, working with Steve Jaggins, Emerge project, which is an acidification project that were happening or were running in Europe to understand short-term environmental changes with pH environmental changes. And also Aldo Marchetto from Italy is championing an amazing literature review of what is actually published, because we don't know, we have no idea how many papers and what are the data availability of these papers in terms of diatom counts. So we are gonna compile everything in let's say in an inventory table, and then we kind of start looking what is the availability of the data, if the raw counts of the diatoms are there, to formatting using the Tilia. So Tilia probably is something that is a software that you are aware of. It's a software developed by Eric Grimm to plot pollen stratigraphic changes and doing a statistical analysis. But Tilia is the software that speaks to Neotoma to upload data set, to do analysis, and to download it as well. So we are not gonna stop that. We're gonna, after this formatting of the data using Tilia, to move to another level. And this is when, in order to not lose data that can be, not findable anymore, we propose to use an intermediate step and put in some static repository such as Zenodo to at least have a DOI, have a citable, let's say, measure for give credit to the data generators and data authors, to then work with them in a later state that will be, of course, the actual meat or the actual, let's say, complicated stuff, which is a taxonomic harmonization. Okay, so how we really say Discostella stelligera or Discostella pseudostelligera are the same. Oops, sorry, here. So for the taxonomic harmonization, we were thinking in using external resources, so tables that are kind of a dictionaries, if you will, to build up a master table of taxonomy harmonization. So for each taxon that we could compile, we know which are the synonyms. We know if these species have changed the name due to, I don't know, revisions of its taxonomy. This is something very common in diatoms. So we are using this a set of, let's say, groups of external taxonomy resources to build up at the end a workflow using R to really synchronize everything in one single master list taxon. This is a two-step process. First, with the user taxa or the taxon list of the individual data sets, we looked up this external checklist. If the name is present in one of these, we propose to prioritize Omnidia, which is a kind of a list, let's say, of European diatom codes with its synonyms and ecological information that people use to calculate water quality indices, and it's harmonized and it's maintained by the community to use that. If the name is not there, we will generate a new code and we'll maintain always the original classification of the author. With that is when we will start this. This is a very work in progress, and I welcome any suggestions that you might have. But with that, we'll start dealing with this classification uncertainty. So what we do with everything that is SPP, SP, it's very common as well in diatoms, and chironomids have type at the end. So it's something that we might not be seeing in the microscope if it's actual that species. So we do the best we can do. So how we do with this, or how we deal with these uncertainties, and to some extent we can document the original classifications of the authors. Okay, so I think I still have a little bit, 5 more minutes to talk about Neotoma. So Neotoma is this global paleoecological database that we want. This is an opportunity. All of these have been challenges so far. This is the opportunity to use it as a database, as a final repository to upload all the data sets that will be generated and will be not generated, sorry, but will be mobilized and worked hand in hand with the authors. It's probably it's only the unique database, global database of paleoecological time series that are curated by the community, which means there is a group of, I will explain you in a minute, there is a group of constituent databases either organized by proxy or by regions that are responsible to data steward and data curate everything that is potentially be uploaded or being publicly available in Neotoma. They have many different characteristics. Probably the most important one, or the two most important one, is that there is a standardized way of dealing with taxonomy. So if it's not in Neotoma, you have to generate the new name. But if it's in Neotoma, you don't start making new names and increasing the chaos at the end. Also, there is a bunch of types of data sets, and Neotoma also account for modern and past observations because it's important to understand the ecology of the current communities and the species distribution to reconstruct the past. And Neotoma can support that and can support actually analysis to build not only transfer functions, is a classical example, but other type of analysis. And there's also lots of tables associated with information about chronology and age model, which I think it's also very important. But Neotoma is much more than a database. Neotoma, I think, brings people together. So bring people that want to contribute with data, people that want to analyze data and probably have skills that the data contributors don't have. Also bring the society, the education. It has an amazing set of resources to teach and explain what you can do with Neotoma. There are always talks and webinars going on in YouTube. And it's really a unique example of community created database that work hand in hand with the society based on their needs. The constituent databases is what I've been saying before. It's organized. It doesn't need to be associated with a proxy. So the dataset types is what we call proxy, if you will: pollen, diatoms, ostracods, mammals, plants, sedimentary DNA, isotopes. But then the constituent database is a group of people, a community that can be placed in Europe. And imagine one of the objectives maybe within the cost action is create an European aquatic paleoecological database, which will be constituent in Neotoma. And we won't differentiate if people don't have diatoms or don't have chironomids or don't have ostracods. So we're going to work in a common objective in making up available and in a fair and open way these counts. An example, something that I've been involved in the last years. It's not Europe, as you can see here, and it's in South America. This database is now part of the tropical of the Neotoma. Is a constituent database, so it means that I'm the coordinator. I'm the kind of the data steward that work with people that have data, diatom data, modern and fossil in South America. This is a distribution of modern habitats. So if you are interested in collaborating and knowing more about how this constituent database speak to the general Neotoma, I'm more than happy to talk to you later. These are the links of the database, the paper that explain the database and all the connections with the general database of Neotoma. Neotoma is also let's say an infrastructure of data, let's say, analysis and data resources. So you have the user contributed data that goes into the database, and then there is an R package called Neotoma 2 that you can download and do analysis with the data sets in Neotoma. There's also the Neotoma viewer. If you are working with Python, I think there is also tools and resources to work with Python. And at the end, this brings the opportunity to do data synthesis that I'll explain you. I'll provide you a couple of examples in a minute. That without this kind of centralized place in which people can come together, it wouldn't be very difficult to do this type of synthesis analysis that we all love. And we at some point we would like to compare what are our results with a more general regional aspect. These are the links of many different resources that Neotoma have. Probably if you use a Slack, I recommend you to join the Neotoma group. There are groups, there are channels organized by proxy or types, or if you have doubts about any data set that you cannot download or any question that you might have, you have two specific people working in the database structure itself, Simon Goring and Socorro Dominguez, that they are super helpful and they're always ready to answer questions. Okay, so some concluding remarks out of this. I hope people are not falling asleep in this late afternoon. Of course, the question is why we should care and why we, right? A natural question, why should I share my data if I don't want or I cannot? In this cost action, we always try to provide what we call the carrot. We all love, or at least I love, being part of these networking projects and networking groups because it brings me many different aspects that I cannot find anywhere else. But of course, at the end of the day, we don't have to be naive, and we have to accept that our time is precious, and all the efforts have to went somewhere, right? And with this large scale data set synthesis is when really big ecological questions can be answered. This is just an example of papers and studies using diatoms that have been benefited to these large scale compilations of data sets, which means there is lots of work behind the scenes, but at the end it paid off the effort. And of course, what we also need to acknowledge is that in these current days of the research, let's say, agenda, we tend to prioritize, or we tend to all the credit go with this large scale synthesis analysis without giving credit to people that generate the data. So the data generators should be treated like gold, like gods. So without them, we all are necessary, but without the data generators, all of this would not be possible. And we want to kind of change this paradigm, and this is what it's nicely simplified in this plot. So all the status quo right now goes, so the big funds goes to people that data crunch and start compiling data set, but the data generating status, generating studies are not as well, visibilized, or less funds go to them, especially these days. So we also want to democratize the knowledge and give credit to the actual data generators. Go just beyond the technical part of data sharing. So with that, I will stop. I think networking in such big projects is something that at some point we all have to experience, because it provides us many different skills that publishing a paper or getting a proposal funded, it doesn't provide you. You get training, you get visibility, people know you know new people. It allows you to grow as a person, but also as a researcher, develop these soft skills. You have to talk to many people, explain what you do. It's something that I think it's very, very important. And we as ECRs, I'm still considering an ECR, a junior researcher, at some point we need to do. And the more senior people should kind of foster this type of networking activities. Okay, so with that, I will stop. Thank you. Of course, I would like to acknowledge especially the working group 2 people. Some of you are here and have been presenting in this meeting. It's amazing the science you are doing, and I'm looking forward to continue working with you. And now I'm looking forward to any questions from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Xavi, for the great presentation. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, which is a lot, and all your contribution, because I guess we need more like you, right? Like, don't get scared of really large databases. And it's really amazing what you're doing, participating in these kind of initiatives. Also for the invitation to share data, because, like normally it's like, no, a big no. But I guess this is exactly why we do our work, and it's tax paid sometimes, most of the time. So like it should be for
Right.
everyone.
Right.
So just to make that clear, and why we should do it also, like just correct, right? Yeah. So I don't know if there are like some questions from the audience. Laura is saying that it's an amazing and important talk. Thanks a lot. Will you be in charge of the short course on data stewardship? Can anyone apply to join Paleo Open even if one does not generate Paleo data personally?
Yes, thanks, Laura. Yeah, so you can apply as long as you are affiliated to an European institution. So even if you are not originally from Europe but you work in Europe, anybody can join the Paleo Open cost action, even if you don't generate data yourself. One of the most important objectives also is to train the best we can to the new data stewards that are keen to to share their time and their efforts in working with the community about what data is available, what are your needs, why you classify this species in the way, why you grouped this species in that way, this kind of things. If I'll be in charge of this short course on data stewardship, this is something that we evaluate in a case by case. So depending on the cost action will run for 3 years more now, and there will be even more money than year one. So I think it's gonna be a lot of opportunities, and I think I have to suggest you to join if you are interested in at the very minimum to join the cost, and you will receive all the new events that we'll be organizing. Yeah.
Okay, so we will continue with a question from Mark and then Cecilia.
Great talk. Very helpful. So I have a couple of brief questions, and one stems from the fact that I'm involved with the Conservation Paleobiology Network here, and we're sort of coming to the end of a funding cycle, and there's a big question about how the listserv will be funded going forward. So I imagine maintaining these huge data sets is costly in a sense. And the question I have is, how does the community guarantee that there will be funding there going forward to support this in perpetuity? And as it grows and grows, it's going to cost more and more. So that's like the first fundamental question. And the second is there a way, there's also a time cost, and particularly for ECRs who are on this treadmill and trying to get tenure, is there a way to facilitate their original collection of data so that it's a very simple matter to just get it into a database where they don't have to do any sort of manipulation, reconfigure it, and it can just go straight from their desktop into Neotoma or whatever other.
Thanks, Mark. Great questions. About the first one, the resources to maintain Neotoma specifically. I think now Neotoma is stored in one of these Amazon cloud, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm right. And the good thing about Neotoma is that there is a council that kind of makes sure that there is some sort of funds every 4 or 5 years through the Geoinformatic NSF program to maintain the database itself, which means paying for the servers, but also getting some money for to pay the salaries of the 2 database people that are actually the ones doing the hard work. Then all out of this, it's very it's activism in terms of, for instance, working with ECRs and PhD students. I totally agree with you that there is it's a double sword. So we don't have time to to format the data set in a particular way that Neotoma wants. So yeah, I don't have time with that. So the way how we envision this is that to really say, if you are interested, that's the first thing. Great, perfect, thank you. Give me whatever you have, and we will work together to adjust in the most proper format to be uploaded into Neotoma. So you don't have to spend, because it's also a learning curve how to people need to understand Tilia first, and then all the process to upload into Neotoma. It's not an easy task, and since Eric Grimm that he passed away also suddenly, I think 4 years ago, he was the main thinker and developer of Tilia and Neotoma. Tilia right now, it's kind of, I think they're programming a new Tilia from scratch, because Tilia was a black box. Only Eric understood how the software worked, and and I think there will be kind of a new phase of how to do things in a more proficient and efficient way. But of course, there are many challenges as well here. So yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, Cecilia.
Thank you, Xavi. Amazing presentation and work, and it's really intersectional, showing many conflicting issues conveyed together. You mentioned that you did a survey to early careers, and I was wondering if you think there might be a bias there in sharing information due to a lack of empowerment. Like when you're in early career, you're not sure how valuable your data set is, and to share it, because I think it's related to colonialism in science a little bit, and how we have a really well explored regions in the North Hemisphere and not so much in the South Hemisphere.
Right. Yeah, totally. I think, why or why not people share data, especially ECRs, is something that we also want to kind of tackle, not just, again, going beyond the technical part. So there is the FAIR principles: findable, interoperationable, accessible, and reproducible. This is the technical part. We all understand that. But there is also a new, let's say, set of more from the social side of things that foster the care principles. So we have to care about why not people share the data. That's a very simple question, but it has a lot of implications, and particularly for ECRs that don't feel empowered, or because of internal dynamics, they don't feel their data. Even if they have been working on it for more than 4 or 5 years, they still don't feel it their data, because it comes from funds from their supervisor and so on and so forth. All of these power dynamics are very important, and we also want to kind of address that to the maximum extent as possible, because we are aware that there are some times that we cannot resolve anything. But yeah, in the questionnaire, what we wanted to specifically visibilize is the lack of training. So even if ECRs want and can share data, they, in most of cases, they don't know how to do it, where to go, which are the most, let's say, that most representative database within their communities. So we wanted kind of have a first sense of what's the ECR vision of this topic in the community. But yeah, it's a topic that speaks to me a lot, because for instance, myself being involved in the tropical South American diatom database, even when the data have been published, have been analyzed in many different ways, people are still reluctant in sharing their data sets, because many reasons that all valid. But yeah.
So
I don't know if I have
already...
answered your question, Cecilia.
Thank you.
Haider is
thank
already
you.
waiting, but we have two chat questions really fast, Xavi, because people really loved your presentation. How do the working group designations deal with data like magnetic susceptibility and geochemical, that is both terrestrial and aquatic?
Yeah. That's a very good question, and again, it's something that I don't have. I don't think I have an answer. I think up until now, the magnetic whatever and geochemical proxies, I think fall more within the terrestrial group. I think that's the ones that are kind of, for some reason, I don't know why, but it's going to be the working group where these people, if they want to participate and be involved, are going to be. We're going to have, although it's closed now for registration and new people to attend, the Open Science meeting in Prague in 2 weeks. And we're going to kind of start resolving all of these proxy or groups of people, the community that fall, in between or at the intersection of the working groups, because it's not, we place this boundary, but it's not a natural boundary, of course.
And at the end, Miora asked, I'm sorry, if we can use this data for Africa research. Miora is asking.
Yep, absolutely. So one of the objectives of being open and fair is that people can use the data for their own, let's say, research and interrogating the database with these data sets with their own questions, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if that was the question. Yeah. But
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So if you would like